All right, so this is Venom. Let There Be Carnage. I did not like the first one. I just recently went back and reviewed it again. I'll put a link to that, but I didn't like the first one. I was actually shocked at how many people liked it. I was in the theater, a packed theater, uproarious laughter. Like I'm thinking to myself, "Wow, Sony, you just don't give a shit, do you?" And everybody else is just having the time of their lives. I didn't understand it. Right? It was crazy. It's like it was another. It's like it was in another dimension or something, another realm, another universe. But this is, this the second one. It's directed by Andy Serkis. I'll say how I feel about this one in a little bit. So Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, he's got Venom still, and they're having some issues. They're constantly arguing. Michelle Williams' character Anne, she's getting married, and that causes some emotional things, with those two, and potentially losing her. And he's doing these interviews with Cletus Cassidy, Woody Harrelson, with once again pretty bad wig, and something happens. They have this confrontation with each other right before he's about to be executed, which makes him get, I guess, the what is the spawn, I guess, of Venom, another symbiote that came from Venom. So he becomes Carnage. He has this love interest, Frances Barrison, played by Naomi Harris. I think that was the actress from Pirates of the Caribbean. I was thinking it the whole time that she looks like Tia Dalma or Calypso or whatever. She can scream, right? Which feels completely like a plot device because, hey, the symbiotes are weak to loud vibrations. Something I never understood though was Carnage screams pretty loud in this. How is he able to scream and be okay, but a bell is too much for him? All right, well, that's beside the point. Eventually, Venom and Eddie they split up and all these other things, but eventually they come back together so they can actually defeat Cletus Cassidy in the end. I did not like this. You could probably tell. I did not like this at all. This feels completely forced to me, just so that we can involve him in some other things, and so that we can capitalize off the money that we made from the first movie, right? Because I think this is making money. Anyway, things I liked: Venom and Eddie, some of their hijinks, some of their little, banter or whatever. Some of it gave me a little bit of a chuckle. Not much. Even the people in the theater, they were laughing, but they weren't laughing very much. I still like Michelle Williams in this movie. There's a certain level of sarcasm of her like knowing that this is trash, which I like. I like her as an actress just in general. It's short, which is always great for a terrible movie that I didn't want to sit through. There was actually something going on with the screen at the like before the movie started, before the previews even started, and I seriously thought to myself, you know what? You could go back home. Like you don't have to be here, but we can review something else. But whatever. It was like I sat there and endured. This movie is nothing. It's nothing. There's no writing to this. There's barely a plot to this. Eddie and Venom, people like their back and forth in the first movie, so they said, let's just do that again. Let's just have them bicker and banter and have hijinks and throw things around the apartment. Let's just do that for almost the entire movie. And then eventually they split up. Venom's sad, and then they get back together at some point. Like there's nothing to this movie. Cletus Cassidy feels like he's just any other villain, right? He's a popular villain, in the Spider-Man lore, but we're not going by the Spider-Man lore. Like this is not Venom from Spider-Man that I've ever seen, at least, right? This is a fucking romantic comedy between those two, where they're just constantly bickering over and over again until they finally get back together. All the exposition with him feels like it's just like, it feels like it's just thrown in there so we know something about him. He has this girlfriend or whatever, so he can have some kind of connection, but really it would have been better without her anyway. But she has this thing where she screams, but they put her in a glass cage or whatever, like a glass prison. I was like, when she screams, how does that not shatter the glass? I was like, that doesn't make sense. There's this cop in this movie that's pointless. He's just there to give Eddie a hard time every now and then. Venom, when they do split up, goes from person to person to person because obviously he can't live on his own. And I assume that he's killing these people, right? Innocent people just dead, and we don't even address it at all. No, don't address it at all. We just keep moving. After he's just left these people just dead all over the place. In a movie that's only an hour and a half, we have enough time for him to go to some random party and give a speech. Somebody said it was a gay club. I didn't get that vibe from it, but from that speech, it definitely was like they were trying to kind of have some parallels between that and like LGBTQ stuff. But the dialogue is probably even worse than it was in the first movie. There's a lot of bad dialogue, especially from Venom. At certain points, because I think Tom Hardy does the voice for Venom, I think, too, which makes sense. I mean, there are parts where I can't even understand what Venom is saying. There are parts where I was like, wait, what is he saying? It doesn't matter because the dialogue's terrible anyway, but it, I wish I could remember some of these lines from Woody Harrelson or from some of these other characters because they will roll your eyes levels of bad. Like I can't tell you how bad they were. I wish I could remember some of this dialogue, like that quote that Cletus Cassidy gave Eddie to put in the paper. Why did he want specifically Eddie to interview him anyway? It's not like he knew Eddie had that Eddie had a symbiote or had Venom, and he wanted a piece of that. Like he just wanted Eddie to interview him because the plot or what plot we have needs to happen. That's it. His girlfriend essentially has superpowers, but we go right past that, right? Like because it's only there so it can set up some conflict kind of with her and the Carnage symbiote suit and stuff like that later on. It doesn't like it doesn't look real, right? Probably the worst, other than the fight scene, the worst CG is probably when Woody Harrelson transforms, because like his body starts to split up and it just doesn't look right. That fight scene was ugly, all over the place. You just have two people with the same powers once again swinging at each other. You got tendrils going all over the place that look fake. They introduce sound and fire and stuff like that. They still feel like they're invincible. They stab each other a bunch of times. Nothing happens, right? I'm just watching two CG creations just roll around. I mean, that's really what it is. There's nothing exciting to it, and it's one of the only fight scenes in this. There aren't that many fight scenes in this because all it is just Venom and Eddie, Venom and Eddie, Venom and Eddie, Venom and Eddie. It's like a romance movie between the two, or it feels like a sitcom. I have to spoil this. I have to. The mid-credit scene, I think it was the mid-credit scene, has Eddie and Venom. They're in some random hotel room, and then a yellow light goes off, and I immediately knew what it was. The TV comes on, and you see Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So Venom, at the very least, he's going to be in No Way Home, but he is potentially going to be in the overall MCU now. His movies don't fit the tone of the MCU. This is not Venom by any stretch of the imagination. He's probably not going to be a villain. I guess maybe he's going to be like a friend or a pal or something to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, even though he's like licking the screen when he sees him. Why is he doing that? Because it's Spider-Man. It doesn't make sense within the movie. It's because he's Spider-Man. So he kind of has to do it. It makes sense for the character. That's it. They wanted that big fan moment. Even with my worries about No Way Home and my problems with MCU Spider-Man, you don't involve this. At least have this be shitty and be on its own. It's a lazy, forced sequel, right? Once again, it feels like an older superhero movie before superhero movies kind of found their footing, and it just kind of is a studio just trying to capitalize off the name recognition of a comic book character. It still kind of feels like that. The villain is pointless. The villain is just there for the hero to fight something at the end. There's nothing to this. And I knew what this was going to be. When I found out it was PG-13 and it was an hour and a half, I was thinking, okay, so y'all don't really care about this, do you? Like, you're only trying to capitalize off the success of the first one, right? It's going to be Eddie and Venom bantering and bickering for most of the movie. Woody Harrelson having the time of his life, I guess, with a bad wig. And eventually it's going to be, a horrible fight scene with bad CG between Carnage and Venom, which is basically, red Venom and Venom. And that's exactly what it is. Completely pointless. I'm giving this utter trash, right? I thought to myself, maybe rental, because earlier on I was like, this at least has to be better than that first movie, right? No, like I actually look more positively on the first one after seeing this one. But that's it. I don't get it. I don't understand why people like the first one. People are probably, who knows, gonna like this one. This one's already making money, I think. I don't get it, but whatever. That's Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and I'm done.